Hello, and thank you for tuning into our video. This video will consist of a full shower build using Schluter products. We're going to be using curdy board on the walls, the Schluter tray. We're making the curb out of two pieces of 2-inch curdy board, wrapping everything in curdy. Make sure we're 100% watertight, and then we're going to flood test it after the thin set mortar has cured for 24 hours. This is a process how we like to install our Schluter products. We're going to go step by step here, and we're going to speed up some areas that don't need to be slowed down. In certain areas we're going to slow them down, give you guys a few tips on how we like to do the installation, and hopefully we can help you in your installation, either if you're professional or DIY. Either way, you can check us out online. We'll leave all our links below. If you have any questions whatsoever, please leave it in the comments or send us a message, whichever you prefer. And hope you enjoy the video, and also please subscribe. Thank you. Okay, when you're installing this 1/2-inch curdy board, it has grid lines on it, so it makes it easier to make cuts on it, make adjustments, and also when you're putting your fasteners in, you can just line them up on there. Now you want to make sure you use the proper washers and screws that Schluter makes. You don't want to space them more than 12 inches away from each other, and you don't want the studs any further than 16 on center. Now when you're installing these, I recommend using an impact driver. You can use a drill, just don't overdrive them, and make sure they're just below the surface. That way it doesn't interfere with the tile installation. Keep it flat. You don't want to go too far and blow through the whole board, and you also don't want it sticking out. So just keep that in mind. Now when you're installing these fasteners, especially at the bottom, you want to keep it only about 1 inch off the floor, because what happens if you bring it up, say 3-4 inches, and you put your tray in, which is about 1.5 inches, sometimes 1.75 inches, depending on the size, your banding won't cover it, and you want to have a 2-inch overlap on them. So that way you keep it close to the subfloor, and you put your tray in, you put your banding, it completely gets that 2-inch overlap, no problem. Right now where I have them right there, the tray is going to pretty much cover them for the most part, so you don't want to put them up too high. So about 1 inch or so off the subfloor, and you should be good.
Just so I know where it's at right now.
Okay, we got this board up, all fastened in. Over down 12 inches on the center, roughly. These are in. Now we just gotta do this wall right here. I'm gonna actually put some 1/8 Wheatie board around here and wrap the curdy band around these edges here, make it 100% waterproof. Here we are, I'm dry fitting everything here. Got the curb in, there's going to be another piece on top of that, but that's dry fitted. Mark the line so we're nice in the same measurement off this back exterior wall. Pre-cut this curdy membrane here. Then when I pre-cut it for the drain here, I pre-cut all the pieces going around, everything. So once I start setting, we're going right through this.
Okay, now we are ready to install our curdy membrane to make everything 100% waterproof. Now, when you're installing this, you want to make sure you use an unmodified thin set, and you don't want to get a cheap one. You're always better off getting a quality thin set, because if you get a cheap one, things could fail. So you don't want to do all this work and have a failure over 10, 15 bucks more for a quality thin set. So in this case, we're using Bostick Ditra set, which is a premium unmodified thin set, and you can go up to 3/4 of an inch and use it as a medium bit if you like. But when you're installing these curdy membranes, you want to make sure you make it nice and loose. Now, you don't want it like soup. You want it loose enough to hold a notch. You don't want it to slump. You just want it real loose, so when you have that nice shine to it, you know it's loose. Now, when you're installing these curdy membranes, you can use a Schluter curdy trowel. If you don't have that, you just want to make sure you have a 1/8 by 1/8 square notch trowel. It's very important that you have the thin set consistency right and the correct amount of mortar. Now I know from personal experience, I've literally worn out trowels and you end up getting less coverage on the curdy and you get tiger striping. So you want to make sure your trowel is not worn and you have the correct size and your thin set is mixed to the right consistency. It is very important. So when I spread it out, I use a flat sided trowel, key it in, then notch it out, and then I like to use a drywall taping knife. Just screed it out, make it nice and flat, and go from there.
and more. Buy a $5 ticket and get an extra 25% off store-wide with few exclusions and 10% off fragrances. That's on top of our Memorial Day weekend savings. Let's do something good together to support the USO and our service members this weekend at Lord & Taylor, the best price secret in town.
The Buy For It Now sales event is on.
Okay, now we are ready to install the shower tray. Now, like I said earlier, I pre-cut everything before I start even mixing thin set, so everything is ready to go here. That way, once you have the thin set ready, you can just go to work. Now, this substrate was at a level pretty good in this bathroom, so we poured a self-lever and got it very level in that area and flat. But with this self-lever material, it really is thirsty, so you want to wipe it down multiple times. What happens if you don't, it's going to just suck the thin set moisture out prematurely, and the bond's either going to fail or it's just not going to bond as well. So you want to wipe it down a few times, make sure it's saturated, and then key it in real well before you notch it. That way it has even another drink on top of it. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a 3/8 by 3/8 square notch trowel, using the same thin set, like I said, unmodified thin set here, white. So I get it out onto my substrate. I have a large margin trowel I like to use. Get it out there, key it in, notch it out, and I also like to back butter the shower tray with a flat side trowel so you get a good bond there. So this is the process of how we go about that. Okay, now we're ready to install a drain flange. With these Schluter drains, they're a glue-in flange. So if the plumber already plumbed up his trap, you gotta cut it this size and glue it in. But you know, on our jobs, if applicable, what we like to do is set our drain and then have the plumber connected afterwards. The thing is, when you dry fit things and then you go to thin sediment, sometimes the heights change just a little bit, and what happens is that flange can end up sticking up, and then once that pipe's glued in there, you're basically done. You're not fixing that. So if you can, you know, have access from below, and if you have to open up the ceiling, it's going to make your life a lot easier just to put that drain in and then connect it afterwards. That's a little tip for you guys. But you know, if you don't, make sure you cut your pipe to the proper size. If anything, you want about an 1/8 inch less short, so when you press that thin set end, you want to make sure that flange on the foam tray is flush or below that lip that they have there, because you don't want it sticking up. Otherwise you got a problem. You got to screed out the whole tray to get it to work right with the slope. Once the thin set has cured for a minimum of 24 hours, you can perform a flood test. So put a plug in the drain, fill it up at least a few inches, and let that water sit in the shower base for a minimum of 24 hours. If you have any leaks, it's going to get through with that 24-hour period. Now with this system, we've had 0 failures, but it's always good insurance to take the time to flood it out, make sure there's no leaks, then you have a happy client and you can sleep better at night. So I always recommend that. Thanks again.